Okay. So so far we have learned, some basic JavaScript. And then last time we covered CSS, mostly Flex, basically Flex CSS, how to arrange things in a container, right? So now we can safely move into React, I think, which is our main objective. And as I said, React is something that would help you, build something much smoothly compared to JavaScript, right? Because JavaScript does require a lot of knowledge, deep knowledge, and also it's much harder work when you want to wire things up, when you want to build a complex application, right? So, okay, so let's get started. I think this would be fun. I guarantee that you guys gonna like it. So what I'm gonna do, let me share my screen. Code. All right. So let me share my screen first. Again, if you have any question, make sure that you raise your fingers or finger. All right. Do you guys see my screen? Okay. So far we've used CodePen for pretty much everything, right? Now we could use CodePen, but for React development, the best place to do this is within something called codesandbox.io. Let me put this in the chat so you can just copy and paste. All right. So what is Code Sandbox? Code Sandbox is it's called a playground, similar to CodePen, but it has way more information that you can do. So it almost gives you like a file. It just like it looks like your computer in a way when you will see in a minute. And also what it does, it gives you, it instantly does stuff, which is pretty good. You don't need a setup. Otherwise, if you want to learn React, you have to do a lot of setup. And for this class, I didn't want to go into setup because, it's very it requires a bunch of stuff, right? And in this case, you have this beautiful environment that is available to you. So there's no need for that. But in future, when you build actual products, you want to use local setup on your computer. I would recommend getting signed up here if you haven't done so, so that you can save your work, right? Which is important. So anything you do, you just name it and save it, similar to CodePen here, right? All right, so let's everyone go here and then click on create a sandbox. All right, I'll just wait for you guys for a few minutes. And it has tons of stuff available, as you can see, right? But all you need is this React. And I don't know how these guys do it. It just simply breathtaking when you have something like this, right? Because it takes all the pain away from setting things up. All right, let me know if you have any questions going inside, because initially you may have some questions, so make sure that you get it right. All right. Okay, so you have a bunch of files here. You see, it looks like your computer. There's a file structure, right? There's a window here. This is where you get This is where you're gonna be doing your work. And this is your sort of browser where whatever you do here, it gets reflected. It's similar to CodePen, right? But here you have the URL. It's like a mini browser, okay, which is nice. Okay, so let's look at the structure. You would never change anything in the public, so I would not even bother. There are things you can do in a package.json, but I would not worry too much about it right now. The only thing you have to worry about is the source folder. And there are 3 files. You would not change any index file here. You can add styles if you want to, basically your CSS, right? And this is the main page you're gonna work within, which is called app.js. Now, in typical project, you would have so many files, but we're gonna do everything within this app.js. So again, we are simplifying things by not going outside, right? Later on, if you wanna, if all of you want to do something advanced, we can actually get out of this and then do something cool. But for now, we are going to simplify things. Anything you do, it's just you're going to add into app.js. Okay, so this is your main file where you do things. Okay, so don't worry about anything else. Okay, so what do we have here? Import. So what is an import? Whenever I learn something, I would have to learn everything that, every single syntax, which means if there's some line, if I don't understand, I don't move forward, right? I have to understand what is import does. Import basically says there's this file called app.js, and I need to use styles inside here, which is coming from here, right? And there's this font family, sans serif, and text is centered. Okay. So if I change this to left, you see all the text became left here. Okay. If I move to right, right? So we're just going to keep it center for now, so it looks pretty. Okay. So this is how you define it here. You import inside, which means I can use it here. Okay, any style that I've defined. If I've defined some class, you see this app class, it's using here, right here, class name app. In regular CSS, we would say class. In React, you have to say class name. So that's one difference. There are only a few differences in regular regular HTML and this HTML. This is not actually HTML, it's called JSX. Okay, it's called JSX, which means JavaScript XML format. Okay, just in case somebody asks you, what is this? So this is called JSX format. So see, the beauty of this React is it brings all JavaScript, HTML, and CSS all together. It makes them up compared to when you looked at the CodePen where you have to write 3 separately. It makes them up, right? Brings them all together. So it's easier for us to manage. The beauty of this is everything is JavaScript. Even this actually is JavaScript. Okay, but it looks like HTML, but it's actually JavaScript. So even CSS, the way you can actually write in a JavaScript format as well. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. Okay, so import, as we understand, if I have something in the file, I want to use it here, I would just do import that file. What is this? App. So this is the function, as we know, right? We learned about the functions. This is the function called app. And what is export default? Anything that you use, things like this, right? Anything you build, it is called component. Okay. Hi, Vanna. So yeah, we are starting with React today. So I would suggest, open this codesandbox.io and then select React as a project. Let me know if you have any issues. Okay, and then you would come here, right? Okay, so what is export really means? So any file that you create, it's like your component. What is a component? It's a piece of your application. That's a component. I can if you look at a house, right? A door is a component. A room is a component. A window is a component, right? House itself can be a component, right? So if you look at your house, it's made of a bunch of components, right? Similarly, the whole application can be made of smaller components. So when you build a component, you create in a file, right? And the name of the file will be the same name as your, not necessarily, but usually you define, let's say app is my file, then file name, then app is the component. Okay. And to build this component, I can use something from outside. So things like these are like tools, or it could be other components, right? That I need to build this component with. So I can import something to build this. And then, so for example, I want to build a room, right? I want to build a room. I would need windows. I would need paint. I would need tiles, right? So these are all the components I need to import inside if I want to build a component called room, right? So think of this as a room, and I need to import CSS. I could use another component. I can also import other components, which I'm not doing here, but I could if I need to, right? And then every component returns something, right? It's like build something inside and say, okay, here it is to use whatever I want to plug this room in. So returning is called export. So import is like I am grabbing things that I need to build this component, and export is like the component is ready. Here's for you to consume, because everything is consumable, right? Default, which means this is the only component I have. I can have actually multiple components. In that case, I will not use default, but in this case, it's only one component. So then you would use default. We're not going to worry about how we import it right now, but let's just understand the syntax first, right? And what this component does, it basically, within whatever you write in return would show up here, right? And it's as I said, it's called JSX, but it's an HTML like syntax, right? So I have a div called app, and within that I have two elements, right? And if I change, the beauty of this, if I change it, hello world, right? As soon as I change it, you can see it gets reflected here. Okay. So it's pretty cool. All right. Any question on this one? Okay. So today, actually, again, this is so easy, at least in the beginning, right? You can make it complex but this is so easy that you can actually build a lot of things very dynamically. And that's what it's used for. I mean, I can write an HTML page like this without any problem, right? Outside somewhere. But if I wanted to make it dynamic, it becomes very difficult. So how do I make it dynamic? In order to make it dynamic, I would need to have state. Okay, what is a state really means? Let's think about a state. State is something that is dynamic. Okay. What is dynamic in your house, if you ever think about it, right? You have fixed things in your house, right? You have your windows, door, they're fixed and they're inside. There may be something that is dynamic, right? Maybe you have a window that can open and close, right? So that's your state. A given time, your window is half open, half state, half closed. You may have a chair that is located inside your house, right, in a specific location, which I can actually move to a different room, right? So that is a state. So if I look at your house, it's not only like walls and windows, but there are things inside as well, right? And they all have a place and they can move anytime, right? And sometimes one thing can have an impact on another. Usually that's not the case in the real house, but in the web world, you could have an impact, right? So for that, there's a special type of things you define, things you want to have as a static. Let's say hello world is a static, right? This is static. It's not changing. It's not going to change automatically. If I want to change that, I have to manually write it here, right? But what if I want to change something by clicking on a button or something like that? How do I do that? For that, I would need state. So how can I define a state? Again, you have to import state, import useState from React. And again, if I right click on it and format the document, it makes it nice and clean. Okay, so what is this useState? useState allows us to keep things dynamic. Okay, and it actually keeps track of where things are. And that's the beauty of it. So the difference between something that you write here and something you write as a dynamic piece, which could change automatically, I would have to use this useState. useState is actually a function. Okay, it's not even a function. As I say, import means I'm actually borrowing, right? You can borrow tools, you can borrow other components. Similarly, you can also borrow useState, which is nothing but a function. Okay. Okay, so how is it going to work? So within this app, so always remember where to define a useState between the body, inside the body of the component, between the return and here, right? This is where you define your state. And let's define a counter. And so the syntax is pretty straightforward, but you have to remember the syntax. So you would say const, which is a constant, and you would say counter, and then you would say set counter and equal to use state. And then you provide some sort of value, which to start with, not user state. Okay. Let's understand the syntax first of all. So anything dynamic, let's say if you have a chair that is dynamic, right? Or something that can grow or can reduce. There are two things to do. I want to access the value. So at given time. So let's say if I have a window in my house, right? I want to know how much open is it, open or close. So that's a state, right? Also, I need an ability to change the state, right? I need an ability to change the state. Okay. Hi, Melissa. So how do I do that? So for anything that is dynamic, I need to access the value and I need to change the value. There are two ways to do it, right? Either I can move the chair somewhere else from the room, which is kind of like a setting the value. And at any given time, I want to know where is my chair. and it will tell me, oh, it's in this room or this location, right? So if I have an ability to move that somewhere, or so ability to set some stuff, right? An ability to access the value. Let's say you have a child, and you want to send your child to school, right? So you can say set child to school, right? And it puts it, sends them to school, right? And at some point I want to know, where is my child, right? So you can say child, and it gives me the location, right? So you can change something, or you can access something. That's the only two things you can do for things that are changing, right? So that's what it is. So how do I use it? So this is a fixed syntax. Remember the syntax where, use states gives me this variable and its setter, right? And it also allows you to set a fixed value in the beginning. So what is the initial value, right? So initial value is 0. Okay. It gives me this. How do I use this? Okay. I can simply say counter value equal to, now again, counter value equal to this, up to this point, it's static. Okay. But if I want to use this value, which is dynamic, anytime you have a state, you cannot simply write counter, right? I have to use curly brackets. This means, put counter here. It's called interpolation. So anything dynamic, I have to put between a curly brackets. Anything static can go outside. Okay. So as you can see, it says counter value equal to 0. So counter is, because I define as a 0 in the beginning, if I say any initial value is, let's say 200, it would set as a 200, right? Again, it's dynamic, but it's at the same time, you need to have an initial value. Okay. Okay. Now, if I want the same value in multiple places, all I have to say is this, and the same value comes here. If I change here, right, the same value, just like a variable, right? This cannot change because it's a fixed value. This one, wherever I use counter within the curly brackets, it automatically changes. Okay, let's try this. And yeah, ask if you get stuck, let me know. Any question on this one? You'll see how easy to build games with this one, or build anything. This is how any website that you see, well, most of the websites, for example, Facebook.com is built using this technology. Instagram is built using this. Yeah, pretty much all the Facebook websites are built using this. Nowadays, I would say anything dynamic, more than 60-70% of websites are built using, when I say website, I say I mean web application, right? The difference between website and web application is websites are simple, flat, doesn't change much. Obviously you can change, but you have to go inside and change it. Web applications are dynamic. Things are automatically pulled, right? And changing, like Facebook is an application, Twitter is an application, right? It's not just a flat website. Every time you see it, there's a new information in there. Right? Okay, anyone having issue running it? Sometimes if it stops working, never refresh this. If you refresh this information will go away. Always go here, and if there's an error or something here, you can always go and check. Okay. So this is how you can create something. Now we haven't actually set any values, but we could. So let's create a button. I'm just gonna remove this other stuff, and I'm gonna create a button here. And the button is created using button syntax. And in HTML, button basically has opening tag, and then you also have a closing tag, and in between you would put, let's say plus, right? Which means this plus is a button, right? If I click on here, it should do something. All right. So what should happen when I click on here? So when I click on here, what I want to do is I want the counter to go up by 1. Every time I click on it, I want to increment, right? So that's the dynamic part. So how do I achieve that? So in the button, there is something called event. And if I want to click on it, there's an event called on click. Okay. And you can define this event by a handle. So I would say increment handle. Okay, I'll just say, I would say plus handle. Okay. We haven't defined this handle yet, but what I would say, when I click on it, I want this handle to get executed. Where do I define this handle? Here. So I would say function plus handle, right? That's it. Which means when I click on this button, I want this function to get executed. Okay. All right. If you want to know if it does work, if I simply say console log clicked, and there's a console here as well. So if I click on here, you see it says clicked. Many times it would say click, right? Always test before you write any logic inside. This makes sure that, okay, the click is working. All right. If you want to do this in JavaScript, it's really painful. But here it's pretty simple. You create a button, you have an on click, you create a function, and then you just say, when I do on click, I want to execute this function. All right. Okay, so what should happen when I click on it? Remember, there are 2 ways to do this. I can read something or I can write something. So we are reading in here by just passing the value, right? It's like, where is Tommy? It's here, right? And here it's to say, okay, send Tommy to school. Okay, so set counter is it would modify the counter, right? So I would just simply say, whatever the current value of counter is, add 1 to it. That's it. And then set it. So if it's 201, it will add 1 to it, and it would set it, which makes it 202. All right. So now if I click on it, you see it's changing. I click here, something changes. This is the dynamic part. When you have your Facebook post, when you write something and click on it, it magically goes and posts itself, right? This is how it's done, right? Your post itself is a state. Click on it, it goes and updates it somewhere. Okay, I would just put this back to 0. So it's always starts from a 0. And then if I click on it, it can update. All right, now you know how it works. Let me give you a challenge. I want you to add a button, another button. And it's going to be minus, similar to here when you have plus, right? Create another button. And when you click on it, it should subtract 1 from the counter. So I think you already have a template to do this, right? So let's do this. I'll be back in a minute. And then we can, 2 minutes maybe, and then we can look at the solution. So keep working on it in the meantime. Okay. Anyone got the solution? Anyone tried? Yes, no, maybe. Any questions? All right. Can you hear me, first of all? All right. Looks like no one has finished it. If you're working on it, we can wait for a few minutes.
Quick question. Do you mind just copying and pasting that on the chat, please?
The whole thing?
Yes, please.
Sure. All right, I pasted it. Yeah, I'll give you a few minutes, but I think you know, if I want to add, you know, it doesn't matter where you add it, but I need another button here, which has minus sign. Okay, and if I click on it, it should subtract 1 from the counter. So let's quickly go over while you guys doing this, right? Again, we got this thing called use state. It's called hook. Okay. And what use state does, it's called a React hook, and it's a hook that is already defined inside React. I mean, you can actually create, if you go advanced, you can actually create your own hook like this. Okay, but this one is pre-built that React provides. You're importing it because you're going to use something. Like if I want to build something in here, I have to, you know, import tools. So this is one of the tools, right? The function, when I pass a value to it, which that's a 0, and 0 is an initial value, because anything that you need, let's say if I want to set chair in my room, I need initially want to put down somewhere, right? So that's 0, which is, this is the initial value. I need two things. If I say, hey, where's my chair? I should be able to get its location anytime. Or I can say, okay, put this chair somewhere, right, in this room. And that's gives me setter. So similarly, counter, I can access the value of the count and then put it in my page anywhere, right? And then this is called binding, right? Basically, you have this variable and I actually bound it here, which means if this changes, this automatically changes. That's the beauty of this, right? You don't have to say that if this changes, change this. This automatically does that because you are defining as a state, which means anytime you change something, it will automatically change. And I'll show you how cool this is, right? If I have 1,000 instance of counter, it will change all of the 1,000 instance with if you do this in a regular JavaScript. This is also JavaScript, but it's pre-built. You know, all these tools are pre-built for you, like use state and all that stuff, right? If you do this in a regular JavaScript, you have to do all of this by yourself. You have to have a button. You can add a click event. And you can say, when I click on it, I want that element to change, right? So then I have to go and grab the value of it, change it, all of that, right? Here, I'm not grabbing any value. I'm just saying, when I click on it, change the state. That state, wherever it's defined, it's automatically going to update everywhere. Okay. So, all right. So if I want to build another, so I'm just going to copy and paste this here. And I'm going to have a minus sign, right? Instead of plus, I would need to have minus handle, right? Which I will obviously build. And I'm just going to copy this. And I'm going to call this minus handle. And instead of plus, it will be minus. That's it. Simple. So this would let me add. This would let me subtract. Okay. If you do something crazy, let's just say if I have H1 and if I just do counter H1, okay, can have many counters. And if you remember the flex box, I can actually have div. We learned the flex box last time, right? So I'm going to define this inside a flex box. And here I'm going to say, let's say class name equal to, you know, I don't know, counters or something. All right. And we can take this counters and inside the style, I can use this counter and I can say display flex. That's it. Okay, which means instead of rows, it make them column, right? And then I can have many of these, I don't know, thousands of these, doesn't matter, right? If I add, you see, they all increasing at the same time. And with the minimum help, I can do this, right? If I were to do like in a regular JavaScript, I have to build so much code to do this, right? So that's the beauty of it. Again, this is just simply crazy, but I just wanted to show you that it's possible. Right, we just want to worry about this right for now. Okay, any question on this one? As I said, you know, you define something and then you can actually use it many different places, right? And if you change it, it changes everywhere automatically. All right, so we built our first React application with only a few lines of code. This is actually not bad, right? This many lines of code can actually do, you know, functionality like this. There are actually games that are this, you know, I can build, let's say, a small game within like an hour or so. And it's pretty simple. Okay, so now that we have this, one of the problem with this is, if I want to refresh the counter, I would just go here and then refresh it. Okay. The problem with it is if I do minus, I don't want it to become minus. I always want to stay positive, right? Like, just like my attitude, I want this to be positive always. How can I keep it positive? And yeah, minus sign should work, but it should only go up to 0. And after that, it should stop working. So how can I achieve that? You already know that you can do something here, right? Can you think of something? Or you can do something here as well, multiple places. A good design would be the button should disable if, so you should not, user should know exactly what's happening, right? Yeah, you can use if and else statement here, saying, okay, if it's greater than or equal to 0, you can subtract it, otherwise don't do it, right? But that's kind of confusing. So I can say if counter, okay, is greater than 0, right? Which means if it's any number that is higher than 0, I want to subtract it, 1 from it. Why not 0? Because 0 will take you to minus, right? Which we don't want. So let's say if I go like this 2, and then if I see, it stops at minus, it doesn't let me do, but this is a bad design. It lets me click, but it does not let me, so it's confusing for user, right? So the best way to do it is to disable this button, okay, minus button altogether. So the better solution is I would come here, and this is the minus button, right? In HTML, there is a property called disable or disabled, I forgot. If you go HTML, button disabled, okay, everything is there, just you have to, oh, it's disabled, okay, not disabled. So I would say disabled equal to, so this disable takes a boolean. If I say true, oh, not true, it's true. If I say true, means it's disabled. If I say false, which means it's not disabled. So all I have to do is I can just use this variable. If I say counter is if it's less than 1, right? That's all I need to do. If it's less than 1, then disable it. You see how easy this is? So let's format this. See how easy this is? So all I have to do in the React application, you kind of think of all the rules that you want to do and implement it, right? You don't really let the state manage everything. And that's the beauty of it, right? I'm not saying if a counter is this, when to disable it, I'm just putting the rules here. Whenever it reaches that value, it automatically figures out what to disable and what to not, right? I'm not waiting for this value to reach that. I'm just saying simply, this value is this, disable it, that's it. There is no timing issue, right? Because the timing is managed by, so this line manages everything inside of where the things are and what to update. Okay. Let's disable this button when the counter hits 10. So I want this to be between 0 and 10. It should not go 11. Okay. Let me paste this code in there just in case if you have if you haven't typed it. You can actually learn React in a couple of weeks, and if you work really hard, and you can easily get, as I said, you can easily get 6-figure job if you learn this well, and if you know how to do this well, right? I'm showing you some basic stuff, but obviously there's way more to this than this. I've built some very crazy applications with this technology, but the idea is that you take all the pain away from doing things yourself, right? You let the state manage everything. You just implement the logic, and the rest of the stuff is taken care. Okay. So let's disable this button, plus when the counter is over 10. So it should not go over 10, basically. Let me know once you finish it so that we can look at it. Hi, all right, anyone got it to work? All right, good. So Amira, what you can do is go to this website. Let me open it for you. Go to this website, put it in the chat, codesandbox.io. When you open it, so let's say if I go to codesandbox.io, and then you say create sandbox, and then pick React from here, and then you get this, right? And then all you need to do is copy. I'm going to give you the code, and you copy paste inside that middle container. Okay. As soon as you do that, you will be able to see this code working. If I click on plus, it increments it. If I call minus, it reduces it. let me just quickly explain the code. And again, you can watch the video later on, but counter is our state, which means it's a dynamic part of this count. Basically, this is the only part that is dynamic. So if I click here, it increments it, decrements it, right? And I have created two buttons, and there's an on-click event, which allows me to, this one has a plus and this was a minus handle. It allows me to increment or decrement it. So the state has two things. It has counter and set counter. Counter is basically a value that you can access, state you can access, and set counter is a value that you can use to change counter, right? So if I say set counter, counter plus one, which means take the existing counter, add one to it. This one means take existing counter and subtract minus one to it, right? And once you do that, any place a counter is defined, it automatically gets updated, right? So it will find the counter and update it automatically. You don't have to do it. So that's the beauty of it. So what we are trying to do is we have restricted the minus button, so it would not go below 0. So once it goes below 1, it disables itself. When it hits 0, it disables itself. Similarly, we want to disable it when it hits 10. So here I would say disabled equal to, and anything dynamic, you want to put it within the curly brackets. That's the rule. So you would say counter is disabled when it greater than or greater than equal to, or when you can just say greater than 9, right? Oh, sorry. Greater than equal to 10. So when it hits 10, and in the bottom, it will hit 0. So now you can control it. It will not go out of bound, right? All right. You can actually color. Let's look at button CSS disabled, right? Everything that you need is out there on the internet. Even I don't remember everything, right? But I can, if I just copy this, all right, and just use it in my style here. Okay. Now it shows us, you see, it's a gray color. I want to change this to, let's say, oh, it also adds a border. I don't want a border. Or do I want a border? No, I don't want a border. I'm gonna remove the border. So they are the same size. But you know what? Do I need a border? Maybe I do need a border. You know what? I'm gonna add. If it's disabled, then let's do something funky. Background color is going to be, let's say, black. Okay, black, or just literally you write black, and then the color is white. It doesn't look like disabled button, but okay. Oh, you know what? Red is better. All right. Usually the common pattern, this is actually bad. You should not do that. it doesn't mean anything. Like a red button doesn't mean anything, right? Disable has a specific. I would actually find better examples. Let's see. You see that it's usually also you can change the cursor, right? So this is better. Opacity is this, and cursors. Let's just use this. I think that's better. Okay. So now, if I hover over it, it doesn't let me click. Okay, let me put this in the chat. Okay. All right. Any question on this one? Okay. So I think by now you can see what you can do with. I mean, this I've shown you a snippet of what you can do, right? But there are tons of things you can do with this one. Our objective for this class is at the end of this class, I want you to be able to perform or build a project, which is a game, right? You should be able to have a working game, and the game could be either a very simple game or a very complex game. One of the games, which is called Hangman game. Script. Okay. This guy. I don't know. Not this. I want to actually play the game. I don't want to just see it. But you know what? CodePen has lots of game. CodePen. And I can search Hangman. Okay, here you go. All right, so this is a game, Hangman, and they are built in JavaScript. And you would see how crazy the code is. Okay, you see it has, I think it's at least 300 lines of code, and there's obviously a lot of logic inside the CSS as well, and there's a huge so you can do a lot, right, with this one. But you see this characters. So the way it works is use alphabet ability to guess a number. So here here's the category is movie, right? So I'm gonna pick a vowel. Okay, there's no vowel in here. I'm gonna pick another vowel, and I think you're allowed only certain number. There's no J. Is there an E? Yeah, there's an E. Is there an O? Yeah. Let's see, is there a D? There's a D. There's an S. I'm sure some of you already can solve this. But okay, so you have 5 lives, okay? So how many have I lost? I don't know. So it's building the hangman here. Let's use I. Okay. F. Finding Nemo, right? That's the. So you can build this game. It's a simple. It is a simple game that you can build. Obviously, this part is going to be a little bit complex to build a hangman, right? But you know, you can build something like this. Initially, what you would do is, let's say you would have hard code like 5 or 6 movies, right? So every time a user plays, he'll get one of the 5 movies. Okay. Or you get a list of movies, doesn't matter, right? Random that you randomly pick. But the beauty of this is it's a simple game. You should be able, once you should be able to build this game maybe in a few hours if you're really good at it. If you're new, it can take a couple of days, right? But this is one of the games you can build. And now you know how to build buttons. You can build this, right? A, B, C, D. So I have 26 buttons here. And we looked at this one has 2 buttons, right? I don't want to have 20. If there were like hangman game, there'll be 26 button, or I can actually have only one button that does everything, right? Because 26 button means I have to have 26 handles and all that stuff, right? So I can generalize things and make it more simpler. So let's simplify this. When I click on it, I want to have only one handle. I don't want a multiple handle. So I can say, instead of plus handle or minus handle, I would say counter handle. Okay, so I'm going to comment this out. And I'm going to call this counter handle. Okay, and I'm going to create a function called counter handle. All right, so I only have one handle, but both of my buttons should work, which means if I click on here, it should know that I'm clicking on a plus button. It should increment. By clicking on this, I'm clicking on minus button. It should decrement, right? How would I do that? Any idea? Just take a wild guess, right? If you were to do this, how would you do this? When you're a programmer, always take a wild guess and then implement it. That's it. That's how you should do this, right? If you think too much of the possibility, then you are not gonna, get that, right? So what you want to do is you want to think of a wild solution, right? Whatever comes in your head first, you just blurb it out. So if I were to build this, something like this, right? I need to pass information. Where am I coming from? If I'm coming from plus button, then I should subtract. Increment. If I'm coming from minus button, then I should decrement. But how do I do this? How do I pass things inside this function? Right now, I'm just passing the function itself. So if I want to pass something, the way it needs to be done is I need to wrap in an arrow function. Remember, we learned about the arrow function, right? And what I would do is it would be an arrow function, and I would pass 1 here, and I can do the same thing. And I would pass -1. So instead of just passing a function, I'm wrapping it with another function and executing it here, right? And so now, well, this one should be -1. So when I click on this button, it will pass -1 into this function. If I click this button, it would pass 1 into this function. There are multiple ways to do this, but let's say this, whatever I'm passing is this here, right? So I can actually see it working. So console log I. If I click on plus, I can see it passing 1 here. Obviously, that's not incrementing because we have locked. I just put 5 here to start with. So we can see both buttons, right? So I click minus here, you can see it's passing minus. If I click on plus here, it's passing plus. So from this button, I'm passing this value inside. And the way to do this is actually you're wrapping that into another function. You only do this when you want to pass something, right? Okay, so now you have that 1 or -1. All I have to do now is set counter, and I would just say counter plus I. So if it's 1, then it's going to do plus. If it's -1, then it's going to do subtraction, right? So if I do plus, it's doing this. If I do minus, it's doing this. So actually reduce this a function instead of 2 function, now a 1 function that does the same thing. Right? This is how you reduce number of code, number of lines. Obviously, here I added 2 lines, and then you say, well, you reduce to what's a big deal, right? Yeah, but if I have if I have a logic where I have a lot of different things, I can quite reduce. In this case, I'm not reducing that many lines, right? But if I have too many of these, I can simplify this, right? So any question on this one? Try this out. I think this is more fun. And we will stop today like at 5:30. It's a simple example, but we have added quite a bit of logic inside. But you can see the number of lines is so small. Right? So I'm going to give you some homework today. And the way it's going to work is instead of plus minus, you're going to build similar to what the hangman does, like this. You're going to have 26 buttons. Okay. And which you can just use buttons, right? And then the value is going to be, it's going to be A, B, C, whatever, right? You can have 26 buttons. And then there'll be a value here called selected value. So if I click on A, this would be A. If I click on B, this would change to B, right? So whichever button I click, it would reflect that value. It's a simple example, but at least it will give you some idea of how this would work, right? So those who want to build hangman game can start planning this way. But there are other games, right? So let's do this. I'm gonna give you a bunch of games. We have 10 more minutes or 7-8 more minutes. I'm gonna give you ideas for the game. So Hangman is one game that you already saw. Another game is called Memory Game. So if I go here, Memory Game. Let's look at this one. It's also a simple game. And again, you get the same thing, right? You get all this, you have all these buttons. And again, you can build multiple games if you want for this course. If you think like this is simple, you can make multiple. So Memory Game, I think most of you probably played this. You have what, 5x5 matrix. You have 25 cards. And then there are basic, was it a 25? Oh, sorry. 20. So it's a 5x4 matrix. It has to be even number so that there are 10 pairs here, right? So if I click on here, it's a bag. Okay. Calculator. Oh, bag. There was a bag here. Okay, book. So whenever you click on matching pair, it goes away. And the objective is to, if you have very good memory, you can easily get rid of stuff, right? I think it was here. Okay. Okay, that's it, right? It says, oh, you found in 38 clicks. So again, it's the same thing. You have a bunch of buttons, right? You can use flex box that we learned last time to arrange this in this manner, right? And then you can reduce the click by only one click, right? Because you can have same event in every button. Similar to this, right? Call select something. And then you need to have a state that is not simple like this, obviously, right? You need to have a state which is an array where you have things that you have already found and things that you have not found yet, right? And then you can build this. It's not a bad game to build. So that's another game. So Memory Game is another game. So think about it this way, Memory Game. What else you can do? You can do tic-tac-toe. Right. All right. So you start with something like this, and I click on X, and the next player basically plays here. Let's say if I click on here, next player clicks here, and I click on here. I won, So again, it's a similar concept. The logic is different, state is different, and things like that, right? So that's another game. If you want something more dynamic, snake game. A lot of people could make snake. You see, there is some food that I need to grab, right? And once I grab that food, the snake would enlarge by 1. And then also its speed also increases, right? So it becomes harder and harder to control the snake. But yeah, you can build something like this as well. It's a little bit complex. If you look at this guy, has built in pure JavaScript with, not bad actually. Few hundred lines of code, which is pretty good. Yeah. So you can build something like this, snake game. Then you can do rock, paper, scissors. Okay. All right, so you have oh, this guy has rock, paper, scissors, lizard, spook. Oh my God. So you pick something, a computer picks something, and then I guess you lose. I don't know. This is a little weird, but yeah, the complexity. So rock, paper, scissors. Any other games you guys think of that you think you want to build? I used to have a huge list that you want to build. Pizza making game. Okay, what is pizza making game? Let's see if there is a pizza making. There is one. Somebody must have made it, I guess. This is not a game. This is just a website, I guess. Oh, somebody said FIFA. Okay. For that, you probably need a team of people to build this. But yeah, anything is possible. Let's put it that way, right? Somebody must have made some pizza. List of things I like. Okay. All right. Looks like there is no pizza making game, but you can create, yeah, you can create something. Anything else you can think of? Make. Really like this game, which is obviously you can make Pac-Man or Space Invader. I like 2048. This is a pretty interesting game if you are brave enough to build this. So the way it works is I would, how was that? New game. I forgot how to play this game. Okay, so I have to just use my keyboard. So if I say left, everything goes to left. If I say up, what it will do is it will add all those numbers that are sequential, right? So let's say if I want to add this and this, I would take them left both, and then I would push up, so the 2 and 2 become 4, right? And then I will push this way, right? So then it becomes 8. Okay, so this is an interesting game. Maybe one day I want to make this. So I'll just add this to our list. I'll send you guys this list. Okay. And then let's look at last one before we leave. Tetris is another game you can build. Tetris. I mean, it's a complex Pong. Yeah, you can. Yeah, there are tons of games you can build. Yeah, and there are some simple, there are some difficult ones. And if you can think of something, let me know. Okay. All right, so yeah, that's it, folks. Since it's a new topic, I wanted to keep it simple and informative. So even though we have written only maybe 23 lines of code, the idea is to grab it. We have probably learned 10% of the React, okay, which is more important, right? When we learn JavaScript, we probably learned 5% of JavaScript in all 5 classes. But in one class, we have learned quite a bit of React. So that's to see how important, how easy it is to learn, or to build something in React. So, okay. Any last question before we leave? All right. Otherwise, I'll give you your half hour back so you can do something productive. All right. See you guys next Wednesday.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Any resource to go through, like any notes?
For React?
Yeah, for React.
I have I have actually I do have actually Udemy. I'll give it to you at the end of it. If I give it to you right now, I would just say follow me for this, and then I do have I do have a class, a Udemy class. I have these 2 classes. I'll give you guys for free. Let me give you. I'll send you JavaScript class. How about this? Since you already learned JavaScript, I'll give you JavaScript class right now, and then once you have once we are, let's say, somewhere in the middle, I'll give you the React class as well, right? But this one is very comprehensive. It takes you, it's I think 20, 30, I don't know how many hours. It's only 8 hours, sorry. I thought it was 20 hours. But yeah, it's an 8-hour course, but it takes you through pretty much all the major, majors, and it's also very systematic. So
okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
I'll send you the JavaScript course. It will be a link with a free code embedded inside. So all you have to do is just don't pay for it, right? If you can do it for free, I mean, when you do a checkout, it should take you directly and you don't have to pay for it. But if it does ask you, let me know. Otherwise, URL would have an embedded code. So just use that code inside if it asks you for your credit card or something. Okay.
All right. Are you going to send it in the chat or
I will send it in the are you in the Discord?
Yeah, I am in the Discord. Yeah.
You know what? Just give me a minute. I'll just send it to you guys here. I usually don't like to put it in a Discord. Hold on a second. I'll give it to you guys right now. Let me log in. I think I have a. You know what? I'm just gonna give you both classes. Anyway,
Thank you. That is very nice of you.
You can learn ahead, right? You can learn ahead. And since I'm giving you this right now, make sure that what you do is once you come to the class, I think it will help you if you come to the class, by just watching a few more videos ahead of time. So if you have questions, you can, you can start asking, right? Where's that? Let's get confused when I go inside. Okay, courses. Courses. Where's that course right here? This course. Promotions. Coupon. Oh, there's a coupon already. Okay, so this is a React course. All right, so this is a React course. And where's the other course right here? I should make more courses. Just too lazy. Expires in 3 days. Okay, that's good. Coupons. Copy. Okay. All right, so I have 2 courses. Put it in the chat. Make sure you redeem it soon, in a day or two, because I think the first one would expire in 17 days, so you have to redeem it before. The other one has a 1 month. I mean, you can watch as, it doesn't matter, it's forever, but the coupon expires quickly. So this month, yeah, make sure that you.
Thanks a lot. That is really nice of you.
All right. Yeah, cool. So that's it. I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye.